In order to crack a hard difficulty question like the one we will review in this video, you have to think like a risk manager, not a technician. The exam is notorious for offering 4 good answers, but wants you to select the best or most critical answer that addresses a fundamental vulnerability or a broad-based architectural risk. You have about 90 seconds on average to dedicate to each question on the exam. Practicing with difficult, multi-layered questions is the key to mastering the mindset required for passing the exam on your first attempt. We recommend approaching questions strategically by practicing the following steps to optimize your risk manager mindset. We will apply these steps to an example question next. Number 1. Identify the CISSP mindset keywords. This logic check should help you to eliminate 2 answers. Number 2. Compare the remaining deep technical controls. Once you have the 2 best answers remaining, you can determine which is best. Number 3. Apply the breadth versus depth rule. You are the risk manager and need to choose the best and most comprehensive answer. Pause the video and take 60 seconds to review this question and start thinking about your answer. Be conscious of your thought process and natural instincts as you consider the answer options. Make a note of your answer. If domain 4 is one of your stronger domains and you got this one right within a minute, congratulations. If you are not a networking guru, how did you go about landing on your answer? Let's break the question down using the steps outlined in the first slide and see if we can make it make sense. Okay, let's apply those 3 steps to this difficult domain 4 networking question. On the surface, this is clearly a difficult question for anyone that is not intimately familiar with networking protocols. If you were presented this question without a deep understanding of networking and/or a functional security manager mindset, you likely would only have a 25% success rate. In other words, you would be guessing. Let's apply our logic and see if we can eliminate 2 answers and get to the best 2 remaining answers without intimate knowledge of all the solutions presented. Number 1 is to identify the mindset keywords. Keep in mind, keywords is more encompassing and may not be an obvious word that eliminated an answer. Think of it more broadly. For example, in this question, we are solutioning for IPv6 specific threats. Another way to say that is, any answers that apply to either IPv4 or both IPv4 and IPv6 are likely distractors. Solutions that are broad-based standards or best practice for any protocol often sound like the best answer to the untrained eye. But in reality, and in the specific context of this question, both C and D are distractors. An IPS is a generic security tool. While it needs to be IPv6 capable, the act of deploying an IPS is a standard operational task, not a specific strategy for the unique architectural nuances of IPv6. In addition, host-based firewalls are a standard best practice for any protocol. While important, they aren't IPv6 specific either. You wouldn't consider deploying an IPS or host-based firewall just because you have decided to migrate to IPv6. We've now removed the distractors and, in effect, doubled your success rate from 25% to 50%. The second step is to compare and understand the remaining deep technical controls. Now we are left with option A, DHCPv6 snooping, and B, extension headers. Both are specific to IPv6 and not an overarching security control like firewalls. At this stage, your level of networking background and/or studying should come into play. This is certainly important, but ultimately the lack of either real-world experience or specific study does not necessarily make or break you. Option A, DHCPv6 snooping. This is a localized control on the access layer. It stops a specific type of internal attack from rogue servers. Option B, extension headers. This deals with how the IPv6 protocol itself is structured. IPv6 uses headers to handle options like routing and fragmentation. These are features that attackers frequently abuse to bypass firewalls or launch DOS attacks. Based on that understanding, which control sounds like the most encompassing, bang for your buck, solution to you? Balance these findings with keywords identified in step number 1, like most critical and overlooked controls. Lastly, let's apply the breadth versus depth rule. You are the risk manager and need to choose the best, most comprehensive strategy specific to the IPv6 migration. Option A is a switch configuration task that is generally a granular solution, and option B is an edge-based strategy that addresses a structural weakness in the protocol's design that can affect the entire enterprise. Even if you don't know what an extension header is, you can deduce it is the correct answer because it is the most fundamental architectural risk that a transition team might forget, whereas DHCP issues are known problems from the IPv4 days and are not specific to the migration to the new protocol. Would an executive generally weigh in on an access layer configuration change or an architectural level requirements in design? Another popular way to decide between 2 technically correct questions is to ask yourself, if I can only get one of these controls right, which one would I choose? In summary, we used a security leader mindset to answer a question on a topic that we may not be intimately familiar with. Using the following steps. Number 1. Discarding the business as usual. If an answer is just, do what we did in IPv4 like IPS or firewalls, it's probably not the IPv6 specific answer they are looking for. Number 2. Looking for protocol architecture. The exam loves answers that deal with how a protocol is built, in other words, architecture-level controls. Extension headers are a core part of the IPv6 engine. Number 3. Choosing the hardest, most comprehensive remaining answer. Configuring a switch, A, is easier than defining a global filtering strategy for headers, B. The most critical answer is often the one that requires the most strategic oversight.